How's it? Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Boston. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing fantastic. First of all, I'd like to thank you and for agreeing to come and do this interview.
No problem.
Yeah, no, great. I really appreciate it. It's not always easy to come onto a platform and just put your life out for everybody to dissect and for everybody to, have their comment and so on and so forth. But I want to assure you, I've been doing it for a long time and not in this format, obviously, but I've had some very positive things said about me, and I've had some very negative things said about me. You always have the haters, and you have the lovers, and you have the people in the middle. So don't stress too
Yeah.
much. Yeah, to the people that are going to be watching this, thanks for joining us. I decided not to do this one live, and the main reason I've decided to not do them live is, first of all, we don't have a lot of people joining us live. And second of all, it gives us the opportunity to sort of sharpen up the picture and sharpen up the audio and all of that stuff and make it more presentable for the audience. So having said all of that, welcome to the Addicted Voice, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Over here, I have a young man, his name is JJ, and I've asked him to come and give us a little insight into his affairs, into his life, into, what happened, what went wrong, what went right, and, where he comes from and where he's at and, what his plans and dreams for his future are. And so, yeah, with that being said, JJ, don't you want to give us a little bit of a brief history of where you come from and, your entrance and ultimately addiction to substances and where it took you?
Okay. Right. Thank you for having me, first of all, Pastor. So yeah, I need to get rid of those nerves.
Yeah, relax.
But yeah, basically my uh, road of addiction started long ago. I think it started with not feeling that I belong anywhere and having put up too many masks, and that eventually eats me up from the inside. And then you want to try to escape in all the wrong means and wrong ways. And so I was brought up in Harties in a very Christian home, very strong values, very I had very good parents. I won't lie. There was a bit of fighting here and there in the house, but nothing hectic. So I can't blame anything on that. It came down to me with a struggle within that want me to escape in all the wrong ways. So I would say my first addiction was basically a gambling addiction. So unfortunately, I was introduced to that at a young stage when my mom took me to casinos and I used to play in the play areas and stuff. And then obviously I saw her playing the slot machines. And so for me, that was quite a interesting thing, like the excitement that goes along with gambling and the dopamine and everything that get released. So you get good feelings. Even the games that kids play, I think sometimes have that effect on people. So um, yeah, basically, as a little kid in primary school, I was bullied. I went through a bit of an accident where I slid into acid. So I've got third-degree burns over the whole left side of my body.
Wow.
That made me feel very, very insecure about myself, along with obviously that, my sexuality at the end of the day. So that, along with the sexuality issue, I didn't feel like I was good enough ever. And the bullying was also because I was a little bit softer than the average boy, even in primary school. And then obviously the
Okay.
marks on my body. So I didn't play sports. So coming from there, not playing sports, lots of bullying, feeling like you don't belong, you sort of look for distractions. And in high school, it starts becoming a bit of an issue. First, it was alcohol. Well, on top of the gambling thing that I was introduced to in primary school already, the alcohol became a problem in high school because we started drinking at age 16. You try
Okay.
to fit in, sorry?
And I said, okay, cool, yeah.
Yeah. So you try to fit in, and you do whatever it takes due to peer pressure to be part of the cool crowd, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And you tend, in high school, you tend to overdo everything. I think, like, so alcohol I did overdo in occasions. So yes, I think my addiction was also linked to alcohol at early stages.
Okay.
And I was 16 when I first frauded. I had a copy of my ID certified with the wrong, well, a different date on, just to access casinos. At the age of
Yeah, yeah.
16, I went to casinos, and that's where my addiction escalated. I spent quite a bit of money on gambling, and
Okay.
then high school went okay. But I'm sure you're going to ask me some questions with regards to the whole sexual experience.
Yeah.
Where
So I want to start. I actually want to start there while we're here, and before I lose my train of thought.
is
This is a question that particularly pastors, Christian people that have never had to deal with. I don't even want to call it an issue or whatever. It's just we've never had to deal as. Let me put it to you like this. As heterosexual men, we've never had to deal with the challenges that are possibly faced by gay men in the world. So, there's an argument in apologetics that speaks about presupposition. So we automatically presume an argument from our disposition or from our perspective, and then we enforce what we believe to be the truth about that presupposed subject. So, fortunately for me, and I say it fortunately, in my walk with drugs and in the nightclubs and the rave scene and all of that, I interacted with gay people on a daily basis. So it was never really a headache or a hiccup for me in terms of thinking of these people differently, even though I had quite a solid Christian biblical platform.
is
However, now, that being my heterosexual Christian view, I never had to deal with what you had to deal with. So for me, it's always been a very interesting subject. And the question after that whole 5-hour diatribe, the question will be is this, okay, and this is what everyone, this is where the argument comes, right?
mm,
Most people on a Christian background don't believe that people are born with a gay sexual orientation. This is just a reality. This is what people believe. And having said that, they believe that that it's a learned behavior that is learned through whatever bar or for or through or whatever reason,
it's-
people then become gay. And I watch this stuff because it fascinates me. A lot
yeah,
of
and I
a lot of
understand that.
pastors, yeah, a lot of pastors want to, and I'm going to put the inverted commas here, inverted commas, want to cure people
Yeah.
of their game, right?
So
So, when did you first realize that, you weren't looking at little girls, you were looking at little boys?
it actually started like when I went into primary school. So I would say at age 7, between ages 7 and 8. So
Okay.
I always knew I was a little bit more curious about the male figure, in general, the boys instead of the girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
This issue you actually raised with pastors curing this disease or whatever they might call it, uh,
I
or
find that
demons.
very funny.
No, it's not a disease. It's apparently like people tried. I actually went for exorcisms. I went for exorcisms
Yeah.
at in our just like in my matric year. People, my parents, like I said, they're very conservative. They went to take me to quite a few pastors to pray for me and like pray that the demons are coming should come out and things like that. And it's quite traumatizing. It was for me traumatizing.
Yeah, well,
But obviously,
the demons said they're not coming out. They like
and
it here.
no,
It's
they're
comfortable.
staying
It's lekker. Yeah.
unfortunately. But going back to your question is actually so primary school, early primary school, I actually knew I was different, but it's not a conscious decision. It's just in my behavior, the way I behaved myself. So my mom always actually told me I should stop flapping my hands. So I had this
Yeah.
mannerism,
Yeah. Yeah.
mannerisms that was a little bit more unlike the normal boy in my school.
Yeah,
And
on that note, sorry to interrupt you, JJ. I
that,
don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but as the
yeah,
conversation goes, there's it's nice to speak to someone, openly like this, publicly.
yes,
Like, were you interested in boy things though, like running and playing in the mud and riding bikes
not
and
really, not really,
not?
no. But I was actually I was raised on a farm as well, so I had to do a lot of horses, nature. That was my thing. I love that. I don't mind getting
Okay.
dirty, but I was the rugby guy, so I despised rugby when I was in primary school and in general. I don't know if it's because of my burn marks or that I haven't
Yeah.
really come to a conclusion why I didn't like rugby. But yeah, I didn't like the average thing that interests guys, no, like heterosexual
So
boys.
So
Yeah,
your friends that you had at school, right? They, what
it's
type of friends did you have at school? When
uh,
were your friends also gay guys, young gay boys,
uh,
or
like you know
did you
what?
have just normal friends?
I had normal friends. Because I didn't feel good about myself in school in general. I felt like I need to make up for this deficiency or whatever I saw it as. So I was quite a people pleaser, tried to fit in everywhere. So I had
Okay.
a good bunch of friends. But I clicked well with the geeks, if you might call it that.
Yeah, yeah.
The guys who's more into the academics and culture and things like that. So, and I think it goes hand in hand. The majority of guys that was gay in school also had the same interests. So they're more culture driven people than sports, for instance. So that's how I linked well with them, although I had to fit in. So I made friends with the jocks or the rugby crowd or whatever they would call it.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is this, is that academics are gay.
Yes. But if you look at it, like usually in school, the girls are the ones that's the smart ones, if you think of
Yeah,
that. So obviously they're a
100%.
bit more academically inclined. So I would say, yeah, I also got along well with girls, but I went to an all boys school, which was, I think, a terrible decision. Think people would think, okay, yes, lots of gay
Yeah,
boys,
I
no
think
funny
that
boys
as a
school.
guy, if I were a gay guy, that's where I'd want to be, is in a boys'
No,
school.
but
I
it's
mean,
that's the thing. That's the thing, Pastor. So people would say that, but the thing is, the school I went to was a sports school, so they're very strict on their religion or the spirituality side of
did
it.
you play water
Um,
polo? Did you play water
no, I
polo?
didn't, but no, but I liked watching.
You know that old story that came out with all the abuse at these Lonnie, Johannesburg
Yeah, I've
schools
heard
with
of
the
that.
water polo coaches. That
Now I've
I'm
heard of
just
that,
wondering.
but no, luckily, yeah, no, I stayed away from that to be honest.
Okay,
But yeah,
yeah, because
I don't
obviously
mind
your
watching.
burns and that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind watching though. But I'll, so, but
Yeah, I'm
um,
sure.
I lost my train of thought now. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you said it was a very sports orientated school and
Yes, correct.
everyone was
So
into
people
rugby and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, people would think all boys school ideal for a gay guy. It's exactly the opposite. They're a bit hectic on those kind of things. Very conservative, extremely
Yes.
conservative. Very like history driven. Like I don't know what the word is for it, but like culture. Very strong culture. And that's the issue, is like you feel like you need to be somebody that you're not. You can't openly talk about things like this.
It's
And
hectic.
once again, that's the thing that starts eating you up from the inside. You've put on this mask and facade of somebody that you completely believe that you're not, and you're trying so hard to fit in, but you can't fit in. And I think that was my biggest struggle in high school. So I tried to
Yeah.
be friends with everyone. But in matric, unfortunately, they pulled me out of the closet, basically. And that's where the shit hit the
Screaming.
fan. Yeah.
Out the closet.
Luckily not. Luckily not. But it was quite an interesting incident.
What were
But
you wearing?
I, wa- I would just say it was in the hostel, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was with
Okay.
one
So
of
on
my
that
best
note,
friends. Yeah.
okay. On that note, you don't have to go into too much detail. You don't need to make yourself feel uncomfortable. That's not the point of
No
the
problem.
exercise at all.
No, I
But
just want to tell people, like you said, it's
yeah,
like my sharing
100%.
my stuff. Yeah.
We're gonna get to this help thing now. I promise you.
Okay.
We just need everyone to get an understanding, okay,
About
of your challenges that you had at the time. And now tell me, in the school, how were you? Because you said it's staunch and it's all of that stuff and very conservative and
correct.
verkramp, if I can use the word.
Mm.
How did you use drugs at the school? Were you using drugs
So
already?
no, I was fortunate enough to I didn't even know what drugs looked like in school, in high school.
Okay.
I only got introduced to drugs at the age of 26, which is about six
Wow.
years ago.
Okay.
So in school, I only did gambling was the big thing, and then alcohol.
Yes.
That was the two
Yes.
things that especially gambling, I escaped through it quite severely, because it just makes you shut off completely from everything, and you focus and fixated on that one thing. So for me, it was only that in school. Yeah.
I can offer
So
you a similar experience to that.
yes, I'm listening.
Buy yourself an off-road bike. Buy yourself an off-road bike. It's the
But
same thing.
you
I
asked
promise you.
about interest of
Exactly that.
yeah.
I promise you. That's exactly what riding a dirt bike does. You
I actually
completely
had a
fixated. You completely
yeah.
fixated on not crashing. So everything else is arbitrary. I promise you.
I'm
It's
sure
exactly the
you
same. I
would know.
promise you. It's exactly the same. Huh?
I agree. I think it is in a way. It can yeah,
It's the
draw
same.
parallels to that. But yeah, you'll know
Yeah.
all
You
about
just
that.
and the reward, the win, the jackpot, the 3 sevens is coming
Yes,
back with all your
correct.
bones in one
Correct.
place. All your bones are still in the correct position. Then you've won the jackpot. And then you're smiling.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we digress. So after you left school, right? You said obviously now you were busted, if I can use that word.
Yes,
Busted
correct.
and dragged out of the closet. And then you left that school, and I'm assuming you went to a different school, and then you completed
I
school.
actually I stayed in the school. In fact, the biggest challenge I had is unfortunately like the whole perception of Christians perceiving gays as being this dreadful sin. So even though we agreed on disagreeing on the topic
Yeah.
in school. So I managed to say, hey, I'm still the same person because I am still the same person. Please don't just judge me or
So I've
put
got
that label on me. So I
so I've
stayed
got a
on.
I've got a
Yeah,
question here for my Christian brothers and my fellow pastors and whoever has an opinion on this issue, right? I'll get into my opinion just now. We've discussed my opinion, you and I, in counseling, and I'll give my opinion here live on air, and I'll probably be tarred and feathered, but
that's fine.
this is what I want to ask these people, right? In terms of biblical doctrine, right? I want to ask them. I'm asking you out there in the audience. In terms of biblical doctrine, okay, which is the greatest sin? Accepting that you're homosexual and not practicing. So, in other words, remaining celibate, even though you know that that is your sexual preference, and you openly admit that is your sexual preference, and you're openly gay and you're openly homosexual, is that sin, right? And then on the flip side of that coin is choice B, living a lie and lying to everybody all the time. You know, which one is the greatest sin? The guy who's lying about his sexuality. So, you know, I'm fortunate in what I do. I've come across everything. There's nothing I haven't come across here at the rehab center. So, the greatest challenges I find with gay guys here is that a lot of them are on drugs because they're living a lie, and because they're living a lie, they can't live with themselves, and so they try and hide who they are in the drugs, and then they come and sit in front of me, and I tell them, listen here, it's worse to live a lie than to come out of the closet or come out as gay. So, you know, that's the first lie. The other lie that guys live, and we see it every single day of the week. We watch it on the news, we see it in documentaries, we see it here. The guy's married for 15, 20 years. He's got 406 children, and he's having an affair. And then the wife finds out he's having an affair. And guess what's happening? He's having an affair with Enrico, the pool boy. You know what I mean? And gets exposed, you know, and then he comes out and says, well, you know, the reality is that I've actually been gay my whole life. And, you know, I've been living like this because I was afraid that people would judge me for being gay. So his entire life is a lie. Then you got people like me, pastors. Die Here het gesê, you know, these acts. And how many of these guys? I mean, we've just seen it in the biggest church in the world. You know, we've just seen this entire thing just be exposed with a massive amount of priests, cardinals, and all kinds of high-ranking Catholic officials and clergymen being drawn and brought out for abusing, first of all, male boys, and second of all, being engaged in homosexual activity pretty much since they've been in the church, and just, you know, speaking against it on the pulpit, but then committing it in the rectory, you know. And so for me, it's like, you know, it's a very, 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 very difficult theological, doctrinal line that we're walking on, especially when you consider that you're dealing with human beings. So this is the question to them: which is the biggest sin? You know, Jesus heals a guy on the Sunday. The Pharisees come there and say, "Oh yeah, you this, you that, you healing people on the Sunday." And Jesus says, "Well, you know, which is the biggest sin? You know, to allow the guy to be disabled for the rest of his life, or me having the ability to heal him on the Sunday and break the traditional law." So which is it? Now, we know what the Bible says about homosexuality. I'm not blind to that. I read Romans chapter 1, I read Leviticus, I read all these types of things, and I read Revelation. And the Bible is very clear, you know, it's out, but it's just as out as adultery. It's just as out as hating your neighbor. It's just as out as murder. It's just as out as stealing. It's just as out as all of those things. And the big one, being deceptive and lying. That is, you know, Jesus tells us straight in John chapter 8 that, you know, if you're lying, you're speaking the devil's native language. Now, that's a very difficult thing to try and process, me as a pastor, all right, to sit in front of you now, right, and say to you, listen here, brother, you gay, right? Cool. I just want to tell you that you're going to hell. What? As far as I know, here on the bottom it says pastor. Over here, nowhere do I see it says God or Jesus Christ or anything like that. So for me, I've got to preach to you what the word says. Listen, JJ, the word says X, Y, Z. That's what is expected, right?
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Exactly.
You want to go to heaven. You want the benefits of being a Christian. You want the benefits of being in a relationship with Jesus Christ and with God. Fantastic, right? We do that. We pray. You accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, right? Now you're gay. and you've got Jesus as your Lord and Savior, right? Now, whose job is it now to reconcile my sexual preference with my Christian walk? That's between you and God, in
Yeah,
my view. But how do you
exactly.
feel about it? How do you feel about it?
So I'll be honest there, Pastor. So the problem is simply because of this view that you just described, we push away from religion or spirituality or any relationship with God because we feel condemned from the get go.
Yeah,
And that's not the truth. I'll be honest. Since I started praying, since I came into Walking with Winners and I started praying again and started developing a relationship with God again, everything is
okay.
starting to fall in place. So even though, yes, the Bible is very clear on things like that, it's all about you and your relationship, your personal relationship with God, not listening to what other people say, because that is just, yeah, if you take things personally, it's going to affect you and it's going to actually have an impact on you.
But,
But
you
if
know,
you just say an opinion,
how do you not take it personally? You know,
you,
this is something that, I wish people could just understand. I want to just tell people, I've had, I would say, out of guys that are openly gay and not embarrassed to be gay, I would say, let's say, 100 guys here. Okay? I'm just thumb sucking. All right? And I want to say
yeah,
this, out of those 100 guys, all right, 4 or 5 or 6 of those guys, I think it's 5 or 6 of them ended up staying on longer and, assisting with administration and helping to run the center and all that type of stuff, right? Out of those 6 guys, 5 of them, 5 are still clean today.
okay,
5 out of those 5 are still Christians. 5 out of those
yeah,
5 still believe in Jesus Christ. 5 out of those 5 still pray. 5 out of those 5 still read their Bible. And I don't know how many of them attend churches, but I think that maybe they don't attend churches because they don't want to be judged for being gay. So, I haven't asked them that question.
yeah,
But how would I have been able to lead those guys, first of all, to the Lord Jesus Christ, and second of all, to help them stop and help them get out of their drug problem, if I'm sitting here being judgmental and condemning them for something, doesn't matter what I believe, something that they believe is intrinsic to their humanity. Every one of them believes they were born like that. None of them believe that they were, let's say, this is a big one that they like to pull. They were abused as children, and that's what made them gay. Or
yeah,
their mother forced them to dress up like little girls, or they had to play with dolls with their sister, and all of that. And
yeah,
all of those guys that I've dealt with, and that's personal experience, not one of them has said to me, "Nah, something happened." Out of the guys that have relapsed, and out of the guys that aren't managing, there's a couple of them that said, they were victims of abuse and this and that and all the rest. But the guys that have managed to keep it together have all said, no, we were born like this. And I've told them the same thing I'm telling you. You, the Bible, and God have to meet. My job
exactly,
is to arrange the meeting,
yes,
and then you must sort it out with the Lord. The word is there to tell you. You know what you know about who you are. I don't live inside your body. I don't know what's in your spirit. I don't know what's in your mind. And then the three things together. It's actually 4 things. You, God, who's represented obviously by Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. All right. And then the Word of God.
great.
Those are the only
So
people that really.
that's exactly what happened to me. You did the meeting. I met God here, Jesus Christ, and ever since everything has been going well. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, and you know this. There's this void inside you that you always the God void. You need to fill it with something, whether it's drugs, it's your God, or gambling, or
Correct.
alcohol, or even social media. You always have to fill that void. But now that I've replaced it personally, I can only speak from my personal experience. Things are just going well. You're more positive, you have a better outlook on life. And that's what I would like to say to people out there is like, you have a God void inside of you. You need to fill it with the right things. And it worked for me. And I'm very grateful for you and for Tani Isabel here that helped me back onto that road. the road
But
less
tell the
traveled.
people
But
now, has it been easy? Was it just a walk in the park? Was it easy?
no, it's never easy. I've been an atheist for 10 years. Um, so for me, I pushed away from anything spiritual completely because of the branding that I had for a very long time. But ever since I've accepted a lot of things in my life and started praying a lot more, everything started to fall into place. I think it's all about doing the right things behind closed doors or doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. It's more about that. And people start seeing and recognizing that. So, but the tough part, I think that's where your question was, what it was based on, basically. Are you talking about rehab, my experience here in rehab?
No, I'm just talking in general, your process of recovery, So, at your worst, I mean, we all go through all the stages of recovery, right?
Correct.
But at your worst, how bad was it? How bad was the addiction?
It was really bad. So I'll just quickly give you a brief description. I was introduced to drugs by MD or your ecstasy pills, the ones that everybody usually takes at the clubs, which
Yeah, yeah.
people think it's harmless. But it starts there. Once you get that feeling, that euphoric effect, and you realize you can get this feeling by simply taking a little pill, and it lasts quite long, you start opening your eyes up to like what people said about drugs is completely wrong. You think that they just made it a lot worse than what it is actually, and that's what went through my mind when I took it for the first time. And it's actually exactly that got me into a deep addiction when I was introduced to cat, which was my first big DOC. If you look at substance, where I started sniffing occasionally at a club here and there, especially in the crowds that I'm mixed with. It was a big thing to do drugs. And cat was that drug. So when the shit hit the fan in my life, personally with relationships and work and things were going wrong, I realized, hey, the drug's going to make me feel better. So the thing that happened only once every 2 weeks, it eventually became an everyday thing, then every hour thing, then every half an hour, and you sort of like don't realize actually that drastic increase of using while you're in it, and you sort of just shut yourself off. And I went to another long-term facility that didn't have the kindness that you guys actually offered me.
You're ruining my
But
reputation, yeah, bud. You're ruining my reputation badly.
it doesn't
Don't
have
ever,
to be kind, but
don't
like
ever accuse me of being kind.
not kind. I'm just
Make me
saying, like,
angry.
you guys dealing with people in a humane way. Let's just say that. I can put it like
Like
that.
I said, don't upset people that want me to be this and that. God, that's what they
I'm
want.
sorry, Pastor.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to. I'll sign the slip after this.
yeah. No, you're going coming back from sober living straight into flipping full hold, and
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. No, but that is necessary, though. Tough love is necessary, and you know it better than I do. Tough love is actually crucial in the recovery process. Otherwise, you're
sure.
going to take the
Yeah,
piss with it.
it's just how you administer it. I mean, you heard, I'm sure, or you saw what happened here yesterday and the day before
Yeah,
with this
it's
guy
always
that
drama.
was, completely losing his mind and hitting walls and wanting to hit people and, just carrying on like, and, fortunately it never escalated to, to a physical confrontation, but, it has escalated into physical confrontation before. I mean, I've been attacked in devotion.
Yeah,
And, people just don't understand the reality that sometimes, to get a
discipline.
person under control, there are methods outside of what the books teach you that you just have to employ, which you don't want to employ, and then, of
Yeah,
course, that thing gets turned into a story with a tail and an alligator with a tail and
yeah,
so on. But, yesterday, I just want to just say that the staff, yeah, handled that like champions.
they
And
do, and they
ultimately,
always do.
that guy, is compared to, let's say he behaved like that at home, right? Let's just argue that he behaved like that at home, and let's just argue that he had a father and a mother at home, and he behaved like that with a father. I can tell you, in any culture in South Africa, that guy would have been severely disciplined physically. Corporal punishment would have been definitely on the cards for him in a home environment, right? Behaving the way he did yesterday. So the reality is we're restricted by the law. The law says no corporal punishment. The law says absolutely no violence, So the guys sort of, de-escalated the situation. But now, what is worse? Getting, let's say, a couple of strokes with a cane on your backside, or going back to crystal methamphetamine addiction? Which do you think is the worst punishment? You personally?
Yeah, obviously, it's the worst thing you can do is go back to drugs. I mean, you're a threat to society at the end of the day because you don't realize what you're doing. You go into psychosis. People end up killing people. I mean, we had it.
100%.
We've seen it.
Or
We
you
heard
get
it.
caught. You get caught with the drugs, or you get caught stealing for the drugs, or whatever it is. The normal drug story that we've all been through. And the next minute you find yourself in a prison cell with 15, 20 guys. Don't get excited now, please. But 20, 15 guys that find you
It's not
extremely
the same.
appealing at
It's
a
not the same.
minimum. They find you appealing at a minimum. And we know the horror stories of prison. I mean, I know I know a story when I was a policeman 20, 30 years ago, right? Geez, time flies. But 30 years ago, when I was a policeman, we arrested a guy for drunken driving, and we put him in the cells. Protocols were followed. There was no issue. He wasn't violent. He wasn't nothing. He was just drunk, and he was driving. Arrested him, put him in the cells, and due to the lack of space at that point in the cells, there was no choice but to put him in a cell with more than one person. The guys in the cell tackled him. He was raped in those cells, and he ended up picking up HIV/AIDS. And at one of the court hearings, when we went to go and give evidence, they said that the accused will not be appearing in court because he had committed suicide because of what had happened to him in the cells. So, that's just drunken driving. That's the, that can happen to you. This is one of the dangers, and these are the same dangers that face addicts, So the far worst punishment, in my view, is having to expel the guy for his behavior and putting him back to, the danger. I mean, it was only here for 21 days at that point. Yesterday, 21 or 24 days. And the chances of him using, according to addiction statistics, the chances of him going back to his drug of choice is 97 to 99% chance of relapse.
No.
So, what do? You can't endanger
Discipline
all
is
the guys
actually
here because of
unfortunately
one.
necessary.
Yeah.
Discipline.
It's sad. It's very sad. Like I said in devotion yesterday, that's the thing that chills me the most, is opening the gate for a guy that I know is going to go kill himself, and destroy his family in the process. It's hectic. But anyway, it is what it is. We hope that the seed that was sown, God will water, and ultimately that he lives long enough to come to his senses in the pigsty.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, brother, tell me. I had another question for you, right? So it got really hectic, eh? What was it? What was the worst? What was the worst? What brought you here?
After my previous long-term treatment facility, I actually had to attend meetings, and I met the wrong people at these meetings. People think it's great to go to meetings, but if you go, sometimes coming straight out of long-term treatment, you want to make friends, and sometimes those friends aren't always good. So I got introduced to another drug, Crystal Meth, which was my DOC for the past year before I came into treatment. And I was unfortunately introduced in the worst kind of way. I was injecting crystal meth. So it actually put me into a state where you got an extreme high, but you shut off emotionally completely. You don't feel the emotions anymore. And that's what I chased. is like getting rid of these walls that I used to have, my values, my norms, everything just collapses if used, and that's the problem. You become a different person. I think you also explained in your addiction that
Yeah,
there's two versions.
I said there's two people living in the same body.
Yeah,
There's the addict, the person that comes to the fore when you're using stuff, which is your alter ego.
exactly.
I 100% subscribe to that. It's a separate human being. It's a completely different person. But does this make sense to you? This question. This is what I said to Adrian, and I said it as a statement, but I'm going to ask it as a question to you. In
No problem.
America, they call crystal methamphetamine the soul killer. The soul
Yeah,
killer. Would you agree with that?
makes sense. Definitely,
Huh?
definitely. So
Yeah.
that's a drug that I think pushes you further away from any belief that you ever had. It makes your soul dark. It fills that void completely and takes over your being. So
And
yes, definitely.
how does it affect an emotion like the love you have for your family? What happens there?
You don't care. You don't care. I
Don't
mean,
care.
as long as you get that feeling of just shutting off, you get fixated on the idea of not feeling, and then you keep on rushing towards the drugs. Yeah, I completely. You shut off everybody completely, far away. You don't want them to get involved with your life. So yes, now I can relate to the damage it caused to family as well in that sense,
So why did you
because they
go?
worry.
Did you decide to go to rehab, or were you intervened per se?
I was intervened, but I did ask for help because I didn't know how to help myself in that situation. I was unfortunately in a very tricky situation where I was in a relationship where both of us were addicts. And that's where it led to. We kept on kept on enabling each other, and that's where my downfall came. So it carried on for months, where we used almost every day, every second day sometimes. But yeah, so I saw what's happening and I saw what I was getting involved in, whether it's all these bad things that went along with drugs, whether it's sex malpractice or whatever. Uh, there was a lot of things that I did wrong, and I can go into depth, but you can just imagine where things went.
Yeah,
And that is not me per se as a person that I know myself as off drugs. It's actually
yeah.
like the complete opposite. So for me,
So was there
yeah, obviously.
was there a big sexual component with the drugs?
Extremely. So I'm not a very sexual being. I consider myself as a very emotional person. I like to connect with people, and the drugs actually took all of that emotional connection with people away, and it just became a sexual thing. And well, at that stage, I loved the idea because I don't feel guilty or don't feel conscious and conscious
Like just chasing pleasure.
anymore. Just chasing pleasure, but inherently, while I was on drugs, and I think I might be an anomaly in this case, where I started feeling guilty while using for doing these
Everybody.
things.
No,
I know I'm
everybody
doing
does
the
that.
wrong thing, and I feel forced, but I'm not forced. I have a choice. But I felt so stuck in that situation that I had to reach out to my dad or my parents to get an
Well done.
intervention to fetch me
So
in Cape Town,
in
basically.
yeah, in my view, that's I say it like this. Jesus Christ dragged me out of Hillbrow with the demon still clinging onto my feet.
It's exactly
And
that. It's exactly that.
and what I mean by that is even in that like complete confusion and disarray and lack of conscience and all of that, somewhere somehow the Spirit of God manages to just get a crack open in the door, and then you see just that sliver of light, and
Yeah.
you go for it. And that's exactly. I've had a very similar experience. So I think I think it's not as unique as we might think it is. It's unique to us because we've been through that experience, and it's absolutely relieving is the right word. It's such a relief to ultimately just be, away from that darkness and that people.
Feel
It's
safe.
hard to explain to people what it feels like. It's like you're covered in a black blanket,
Correct.
and you don't even know that you think you're okay. You don't even know you're under a blanket,
Yeah.
but you're feeling like oppressed is the right word. You're feeling oppressed all the time.
Yes.
And then you get out of it and you realize, gee whiz, I was like carrying Hillbrow Tower on my back. Yeah, it's hectic.
That's
It's
it.
hectic.
So
So
you
tell
got.
us, my man, tell us where you're at now.
I'm basically at the Crystal, and the whole sexual misconduct and everything. So
No. Breaks, bro. So you get
okay,
intervented. You come to
intervented
recovery.
there. There we
Yeah,
go. Okay, I like
yeah,
that
you get
part.
intervented,
That's the
or
best
you
part.
make the choice.
Yes.
Either
So
people come and talk. Hey?
yeah, no. So basically, they knocked. I wasn't really initially. You were a little hesitant because I was fearful that this might be a place like my previous place, that I've
Yeah.
been at, and that really got to me. So I didn't make it too easy for them, but I eventually said no, I will go because I know that that's God's helpline for me. And I was almost not on earth anymore for like during the run of last year. There was a few times that I ended up in hospital, so I
Oh, really,
was
eh?
quite yeah. No, I was in hospital 3 times last year for
Wow.
overdose,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and was actually just to you can probably relate. You just want to escape this whole situation that you're in, and you feel you don't see a way out at all. But this was my helpline, the intervention team. So they
Does
had
it,
to, yes,
does this make sense to you, this statement? That your addiction, I'll do it in terms of myself, and then you answer if it rings a chord with you or pulls a chord with you. There were times in my addiction that I prayed to die.
yep,
You been
I
there?
can completely been there too many times. In fact, that the only thing holding me back is the effect that it would have on the people that cared for me still, even if I wasn't in addiction.
Crazy. Yeah, I'll
So
be straight with you. The only reason I didn't do it myself is I didn't have the courage. People say, "Oh, it's cowards that do that." Really? You think so? I've thought
no,
about it many times in my life to the point where I've had the tools that were required to commit the actual deed
yeah, no, I agree.
set out in front of me and couldn't do it. Hey, at one point I even put a 9mm to my head, and at the last second, as I was pulling the trigger, I don't know if it was divine intervention or if it was just my
Definitely.
survival instinct or whatever it was, but my hand moved away from my head and I ended up shooting holes in my bedroom cupboard and shot holes right through Isabel's clothes, and it was a story. But I just couldn't do it, ultimately,
Yeah.
But then, I was like, please, just relieve me of this nightmare. Because I'd been in and out of rehabs at that point.
Mhm.
My brother, at that point, it had been 5.5 years in and out of rehabs, spending over a year in rehab at a time. And I just, and now I'm back here and I can't stop myself. So, like, that was my out. I was like, please, God, end it.
Yeah. You lose all
Yeah,
hope.
imagine.
But it's because you've lost touch with your creator. I mean, I believe that I
Yeah,
was in that
sure.
space because I didn't have a relationship with Jesus and God. So
But
it's
that's the whole purpose of the drug abuse. That's the whole purpose of all of these things that we get involved in is to consume so much of our mind and our time that we completely separate ourselves from God. God is not separating himself from you.
no, he was there
We
for
are the
me.
ones doing the separating. Yeah, 100%.
He pulled through when things were really tough for me. I mean, I was in situations where I should have been dead because I was
Yeah.
surrounded by the wrong people. Like, it's just how it is. And he had some angels looking after me. And I hope he had a bigger plan for me. But I've really started seeing things happening in my
Well,
life that makes me think,
my angel is put in for leave for psychiatric evaluation. He's got PTSD. He's he's a bigger wreck than I was. he had to. Yeah, he's like, I'm out. Hey? I need this guy.
Yeah,
What did I
I can
do to
relate. I
deserve this
think
guy?
I can
Yeah.
relate.
So
I've also been,
JJ,
yeah, yeah,
we're running out of
yeah.
minutes here, brother. So
Okay.
I
A
want to just
rundown.
close with this. Where are you at now in your life? What's where are you at? Like, where are you at in yourself, and where are you at in terms of what you're doing with your life?
So during your addiction, your confidence levels drops to a zero. What Walking with Winners has offered me is starting to build that confidence again. So I'm starting to reclaim the confidence, and actually, by praying, forming a good relationship with my higher power and God, um, I actually doors has been opening for me. So the program here really helped me to start putting things in place so that I'm prepared for things that real life has to offer that normal addicts can't usually cope or deal with. So I'm doing well. I've got a job. I'm teaching a lot of gym class at the moment, and I've been approached by a lot of people to actually start sharing my
To
story
expand?
with them. Yeah,
Yeah,
expanding. So for me,
wonderful, man.
I've got a passion to help people as well. And it comes down to one thing for me, and that's where the penny dropped for me. Is like giving one thing up for everything. And that's basically
100%.
addiction. Yeah, addiction
Rather
is
than
giving
giving up
everything
everything for one thing.
for
Yeah,
one thing. That's
yeah,
it. And that's what I think everybody should start looking at. If you just stay away from that thing and you start evolving a positive mindset, start getting confidence back, everything starts falling in place. But you can't be lazy. That's the biggest
yeah.
mistake a lot of guys make here.
Big problem.
So they start getting lazy. They don't feel drive to do anything. But for me, I want to be an example of a person that's putting in the effort and actually reaping the rewards eventually. And in the
Excellent.
short period, I've been like, yeah, after the program, things are really going well. And I'm very grateful
Fantastic.
for that. So that's where
I
I'm at.
am. I'm very, very happy to hear that. And I think, this is the whole point of the exercise is that, last question. So, your life has not gotten worse since you decided to put
Of
down the
course
drugs.
not. It's going so. I would go as far as to say that I don't think I've been as happy as I've been now in my entire life.
Wow.
Because the reason why I say that is even though I went through those bad and terrible things, addiction, and all the things that goes along with it, even the stigma that people put on, or the branding they put on you as an addict,
Yeah.
that things that happened to me, I'm using to my advantage, not just to help others, maybe just to actually motivate me to succeed in whatever I take on. So I don't see it as a negative thing always, and I'm trying to have that
Not a
outlook and
negative thing.
share it.
And there's a lot of, this is what, you've heard me speak about this, I'm sure. There's a lot of things there's a lot of skills that first of all you've developed while trying to secure drugs, all right, in terms of on the negative side, manipulative skills and all that, but those things can be turned into positive skills. And
Definitely.
then the other thing was it escapes me now, I had it on my mind, this commitment to is another talent that people that are in addiction have. I mean, the commitment that we show to drugs is just off the charts. So if you
Mm.
have that sort of way of in inverted commas, in a correct way, manipulating people to your will in terms of particularly in sales or finding employment or all those types of things where it's an art of manipulation to get a job, it's an art of
Yep.
manipulation to sell somebody something, it's an art of
Specifically sales.
manipulation to have. I mean, what do people think I'm doing here right now with
It's
the
a
internet?
talent.
Yeah,
It's
we're
a
trying to
talent.
manipulate you. We're trying to manipulate you into believing that we know what we're talking about, which we do, but we got to
Yeah.
convince you that we do. You understand? And that's
Yeah.
manipulation, but it's positive
Exactly.
manipulation. So,
Yeah.
and then of course commitment. I mean, I was committed to drugs for 16 to 17 years of my life. And I've been just as committed to ministry, for 16 to 17 years of my life. And I'm doing the same things that I did in addiction just for the right reasons
Yep.
and
So
without the
using it
drugs.
to your advantage and benefits to help
Yeah,
others eventually. Yeah, I agree.
100%. 100%. So, if you just, outside of God, look, I believe you can be sober without God. I'll be honest with you. You can be sober, without God.
But you'll be
But
unhappy.
I don't believe you can recover without God as a human being, because of the damage that you've done to yourself, And I believe
Yep.
that's where the Spirit of God comes in and starts
Forgiveness.
healing you inside. But yeah, brother, that was great. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you,
I
Pastor.
really would. You don't know how I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing just to, doesn't it feel good to be honest?
It is. So that's the thing is, I also
So lekker.
like it does, but it's also stressful. It's stressful
It's
because
not. It's
something new to me.
yeah, you're going to get, in your life, not just because of this interview, but you might even get because of this interview. But in your life, you're still going to have to encounter massive amounts of criticism for all kinds of things that that some are true and some are untrue, right?
Yeah.
But as long as you're being honest to who you are and you're being honest with everyone around you, criticism
Yeah, I'm
rolls
a
off your
very
back.
big one on like secrets make you sick, and it really does. So
100%.
like just being open and honest about everything has really only benefited me, even if it's the wrong thing that I did, and coming clean and say I accidentally did this. I wasn't really thinking in the moment, but I did that. And most of the times, people are so forgiving and then you feel good about yourself. You don't have that guilt conscience anymore, and that's the thing that led to relapse. That guilty conscience, I think. So yeah.
On a closing note, and I'm going to close with this. I just want you to hear this from me.
Okay.
Doing what you did now, coming on here and facing your fear, and being open and honest with everybody, right, is taking responsibility for your life, which is part of recovery. So you've taken another step on the journey of recovery, my brother. Lekker. God bless you,
I
my
really
boys.
appreciate that. Okay.
Lekker. Have a
Have a good
fantastic
day.
day further, man. All
Same
the
to
best
you.
going forward.